The galaxy had known many civilizations, each one brimming with life, intelligence, and its own form of grandeur. Yet none could compare to the beauty and grace of the sci-fi, an alien species whose people were hailed as the epitome of perfection. They were tall, with shimmering translucent skin, eyes that flickered like the stars themselves, and ethereal features that seemed to mesmerize every being they encountered. On their homeworld, the cities were made of crystal and light, and the air was scented with the intoxicating perfume of otherworldly flowers. For centuries, the sci-fi had looked down on lesser species. They regarded themselves as the pinnacle of evolution, a race whose beauty and intellect were unmatched. Humans, in their view, were primitive, beneath their notice, hardly worthy of acknowledgement. To the sci-fi, humans were little more than insects fumbling through the cosmos with their crude technology and unpredictable emotions. That was until **, the one who would change everything. In the middle of a silent, glittering galaxy, the sci-fi fleet hovered above Earth, their ships like floating works of art, reflecting the colors of distant suns. Their commander, a woman named Zara, watched through the observation window of her flagship. The Earth below was a jewel of blue oceans and green continents, a planet of unrefined beauty. This species, Vera mused aloud to her officers, has no future. They fight amongst themselves. They destroy their own planet. They barely understand the concept of peace. Her second-in-command, Kairos, nodded. It is a pity, Commander. So much potential wasted. Zyara's eyes narrowed as a young human stood before her on the holographic display, a figure that was being broadcast across the planet's major communication channels. His name was Lucas Nighthawk. At first glance, he seemed like any other human, ordinary, rough around the edges, with a ruggedness that Zara found oddly captivating. But it wasn't his looks that drew her attention. It was his words. Humanity does not need to be perfect to be worthy, Lucas had said. We make mistakes. We fight. We fall. But we rise. We are not the greatest species in the universe, but we are the ones who will never give up. And that is what sets us apart. His speech had become a viral sensation. Even across the stars, the sci-fi had heard of him. He had ignited something in the hearts of humans, a flicker of hope, a belief that they could be more than they were. Zyara, though, was unimpressed. One man, she said dismissively. One speech does not change the fate of an entire species. But something in her chest tightened as she looked at the image of Lucas, something she could not explain. Lucas Nighthawk wasn't supposed to be a hero. He was a simple mechanic, working in a small shop on the outskirts of New York City. He had never sought fame or power. Yet here he was, standing in front of the world, his voice reaching every corner of Earth. It was as though the universe itself had heard his plea for humanity's survival. But he wasn't the only one who had noticed the change. Zyara's fleet was on its way, an unstoppable force ready to crush humanity underfoot. They had come to judge, to assess, and likely to destroy. And Lucas wasn't just watching this unfold from the comfort of his home. He had seen the sci-fi ships descend upon Earth. He had seen them take their place in the sky, watching, waiting. Fear rippled through him, but also a strange, unshakable determination. With a single decision, he was on his way to meet them. Zyara's ship hovered above the ruins of New York City. The once great metropolis had been devastated by war, but the humans still clung to life. And Zyara had no intention of waiting any longer. She had come to observe. Now she was prepared to make a judgment. Her ship's communications system buzzed to life. A human ship, crude and hastily constructed, had appeared on their radar. The transmission it sent was clear. This is Lucas Nighthawk, of Earth. I wish to speak with your leader, face to face. Zyara's brows furrowed. The arrogance of this human. To challenge her to a meeting, unarmed, unprotected, he didn't even have the decency to be afraid. She accepted his challenge. The air inside her ship crackled with tension as the two ships, so different in size and technology, docked. Lucas entered the sci-fi flagship, his heart pounding in his chest. The moment the door opened, the atmosphere shifted. The sci-fi, with their regal beauty and supernatural poise, surrounded him. Yet, it was Zara who stood in the center, her presence impossible to ignore. She was breathtaking, her translucent skin gleaming under the soft glow of the ship's lighting. "You are Lucas Nighthawk," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "The human who days speak of defying fate." Lucas swallowed. "I don't speak of defying fate. I speak of fighting it. We're not perfect, but we will fight for what's ours." Zyara studied him, her gaze piercing. "You speak like a child," she said. "You do not understand what you are up against. The sci-fi are a race of beauty and intellect. You are an insect, a fleeting moment in the timeline of the universe." Lucas, however, met her gaze without flinching. "Maybe we are fleeting. Maybe we're nothing. But we don't give up. That's what makes us different from you. And that's why we'll survive." For a long, tense moment, Zyara said nothing. She tilted her head, considering him. Then, unexpectedly, she stepped closer. There was something in the air, something magnetic that neither of them could deny. The space between them seemed to shrink, their hearts beating in rhythm. "You truly believe that?" Zyara whispered, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. "I do," Lucas said. "And you can look down on us all you want. But you'll see, humanity will not fall so easily." There was a sudden, unexpected tension in the air, something neither of them had prepared for. It wasn't fear. It wasn't hate. It was attraction. In that moment, the divide between their species seemed to vanish, if only briefly. Zyara's lips parted, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel what she had always suppressed, emotions, feelings she had not known she could have for a human. It confused her, yet she was drawn to him, the strength in his words, the fire in his eyes. Before she could stop herself, she reached out, her fingers grazing his hand. The touch was electric, sending a pulse of energy through both of them. They both froze, as if the universe had paused in that one instant. "You should leave," she finally said, breaking the silence. "Your people are too fragile. I don't want to see you perish." But Lucas shook his head. "I'm not leaving. Not without showing you that we are more than you think." Zyara stood motionless, torn between her duty and this strange, unfamiliar pull toward the human before her. She looked into his eyes, seeing something she had never considered: vulnerability, strength, and a promise of something more. With a single, impulsive decision, she made her choice. "Then prove it," she whispered. In the days that followed, the sci-fi did not destroy Earth. Instead, something remarkable happened. The alien fleet, led by Zyara, turned its weapons toward the stars, toward new horizons. The sci-fi had never known what it meant to fight for something as simple as life. But Lucas had shown them something, a fire that burned brightly, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And in the aftermath, as the two worlds began to understand one another,